today's show, we're going to be talking a lot about Detroit Lions news here, a lot to cover in today's video. We're going to be talking about Lions players wanting to go to the Olympics in 2028. What would that mean for the Lions? What does it mean for the Olympics? All of that stuff. Valenti on Jameson Williams. Could this be the last year in Detroit? He believes so. A to Z Sports talks about edge trade. We're going to get into that one and what their thoughts on there. Marcus Davenport, how is he coming along? Kelvin Sheppard gives his thoughts there and more on Jamo. But before we get into today's video, do you believe that Jameson Williams could have a breakout year? If so, place a Y in the comment section or N if you don't believe so. Let's start with the Olympics. St. Brown speaker says, "It's up," St. Brown wrote on Instagram story before adding Die Man's Craft, which means translate to German, the team. Obviously, insinuation there that St. Brown would want to play for the German national team. St. Brown was born and raised in California, but his mother is of German descent. He both speaks German, regular visits to Germany. Lions players want to go. Multiple Lions players want to go. This could be interesting if Lions players get to go to the Olympics because obviously the NFL is now partnering for the Olympics in LA in 2028. You could have St. Brown, who is German descent. He can probably play in the German side. You'd have a ton of Americans, right? I mean, this is the NFL. The United States would be winning this game for sure. But there's questions. I know it's flag football. Could there be injuries? When is it occurring? The exact time around training camp? Is it too much for the players as we're doing multiple things? So all these different factors go into the situation for the Olympics. Something we don't have to worry about right now, obviously, because it's 25. It's not 2028, but something to think about, and it's up for today's news. Do you believe that Jameson Williams have a breakout year? Why for yes and for no? Let's go ahead and get into that question right now. And Chris Perfett believes so. He says, with the Detroit Lions looking towards a new offensive coordinator, there's always room for more to step up. Wide receiver Jameson Williams took a big step in 2024, but with new coordinator John Morton singing his praises, there's a lot to like about the pair. Morton always liked to take the top off defense, but largely lacked the firepower when he was in New York, basically. With a talent like Jamo, the numbers are starting to tabulate themselves. I think Jameson Williams is going to have a breakout year. I 100% do. He had 1,001 yards last year. This year, he could be breaking that for sure because John Morton does like to take top off defenses. And Jameson Williams has progressed every year. He's gotten better every year. Last year, the best year. Also, it's his contract year. He's going to want to get those numbers. He's going to want to take those hates. I think the only thing that would slow him down is injury. That's really it for Jameson Williams. Other than that, I think he could have a breakout year. He is just a player that's on the ascend. He is. When he's trying to make money, trying to get that new contract, it all comes together for a big year for Jameson Williams, at least in my opinion. Let's continue to talk about Jameson Williams because Mike Valenti's got something to say on him. He says, it's unfair. I need to connect the dots. The multiple third-round picks you traded to take TeSlaa, and the fact that Brad Holmes says his favorite receiver in the draft. Is this it? Is the writing on the wall for Jamo? Valenti asked. Look, you could trigger a fifth-year option, but it's just a question. Have they already replaced Jamo, or they're just not paying attention? Look, I think Jamo is going to have a really good year, but I'm not running to pay everyone all the time. Mike Valenti's idea is that it's going to be really difficult to pay Jameson Williams because of everybody else. Sam Laporta, Brian Branch, Aiden Hutchinson, at some point, Terrion Arnold, right? The list just keeps going down with all the players. And he's saying they're basically, at this point, it's the future of Jamo in Detroit looks a little murky. Yes, we picked up his fifth-year option, and I knew the Lions weren't going to get rid of him this year. I knew that for a fact. But after this year, all bets are off. Why is that? It's all about money. We've seen Brad Holmes is not going to fiscally destroy the football team. It's clear. He has not done that. You know, we got a lot of money in cap space right now because he's prepping for these contracts. But all bets are off after this year because they did bring in TeSlaa, right? And you can't pay everybody. And there has been issues with Jameson Williams. Is he a culture fit here? You know, is he going to finally mature? Now, I think he's fine. I think he's just a little immature, but it's nothing serious. It's nothing bad. Like we see players do bad stuff. He's not a bad guy, just a little bit immature. And I would like for him to be on this team for the long haul because we developed him to this point. He is going to be a stud, I think, this year. I think he does make a huge difference for the offense. He opens it up for everybody else. But Mike Valenti is correct in saying that it's going to be quite difficult to do that because of the rest of the players on this team. It's going to be difficult. So, do you believe that Jameson Williams have a breakout year? Why for yes and for no? Let's get into A to Z Sports. Kyle Krabs talks about slowing down the temptation of trading for a pass rusher. Says, while the temptation for Detroit to make a big splash is understandable, it's not the right formula for the Lions to attack as they try to balance the pressure of getting over the hump with sustaining a long-term competitive window. Now, this is the concept of not giving up the future, but just continue to do the trend of what we have been doing for the past couple of years, and that is develop through the draft and not go balls to the wall in a trade or in free agency. Now, I agree to this to the logiced extent. I think that for building a franchise, you need to focus primarily on the draft. I think that's the most important thing, right? Is developing your players through the draft, and that's how you get your core set on a team. With that said, I do think there is times where you should attempt to make a big move when you're really close to a Super Bowl. The Detroit Lions are really close to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying they have to go trade for Trey Henderson because I don't believe that's going to be the case. They don't need to make a big move like that. But you can make a small move, such as, I don't know, bring back Zadarius Smith. But I do believe in the idea of not just mortgaging everything. Because everyone says, you know, we have a 2 to 3 window or a 2-year window left or a year window. But you got to put this into perspective. And let's do this right now. Yes, we may, in theory, have that. But what if we continue to draft well? Because they say about Jared Goff, well, what if they draft a quarterback at some point after Jared Goff that does a good job? Then the team is still going to be good, right? You continue to replace players that are good that for your team when their time is to exit. So your team is always good. You have seen success like that for multiple franchises, the Ravens, the Steelers, before as of late, even though they're always making the playoffs. But we want to be a team that's not just good, but we want to win a championship. So I think there is both sides to this idea. I think you can't be too conservative, and I think you can't be too aggressive, but there is a middle ground right there. And I think that the Lions should pick up a Zadarius Smith. It's not the most aggressive move right now. It's not the biggest move right now. But just like Cobb was saying, you don't have to, but you can make some good moves that would help the team out. That's my thought. Now let's talk about a player, why we've been talking about Zadarius Smith. Kelvin Sheppard talked about Marcus Davenport. Lions defensive coordinator Kelvin Sheppard says Marcus Davenport has taken no days off this offseason to get back into football shape and ready to go for the season. I have no gripes about Marcus Davenport's work ethic, his habit. I have no gripes of what his ability on the field is. It's actually pretty good when he's on the field. You can watch the first game and see he's consistently going after the quarterback. He's got that big body, right? Helps stop the run, set the edge. That's not my worry about Marcus Davenport. No. That's not my worry. You know what my worry is what the question is for this subject right now. Do you believe that Marcus Davenport can withstand without being injured, 17 games. Why for yes and for no? Give me your thoughts, because I don't believe so. I believe he does have a higher work ethic, and he's putting in all these hours, and hopefully it pays off. But it's his body that I'm worried about breaking down due to injury. He's an older veteran. He's had multiple injuries that's ended his seasons back-to-back. And I can't bank on that. So I appreciate Davenport's work ethic, and there's nothing he can do right now to convince anyone he is going to be healthy. There's nothing he can do. I'm sorry, Marcus Davenport, if you're watching this video. The only possible thing that you can do to convince us Lions fans that are in the idea that you can't stay healthy is to be on the field. Is for you to be playing in the games. Because I just don't trust it. Actions speak louder than words, and the last couple years been injured. With that said, it didn't cost to have him on this team. It's a low-end contract, so even if he fails, it doesn't matter from that aspect. If the Lions could just get another edge, I'd be okay, right, with Davenport. I just don't want to trust him to be used for every game, that he'll set that edge every game, because I just don't believe he's going to be available every game. That is my whole truth to this thing. I just don't think he's going to be healthy. So, it is what it is. There's nothing that he can do at this point, but all he can do is continue to grind, continue to put in the work, and hope he doesn't re-injure himself this up-and-coming season. That's really it. So give me your thoughts about today's news. With that said, folks, adios.